One of the questions that gets asked a lot is there a chance that markets will change benchmarks? My observation would be simply this. Benchmark changes happen in crude oil markets regularly, and they happen in the United States more regularly than anywhere else in the world.
Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time to look at things differently. That's another thing that 2020 has taught us, that you can't always rely on your old standards. Sometimes you have to think of things and look at things differently and move on from there.
We're now in the 5th year of US crude exports. The flows are primarily into Asia, into Europe, and on the back of this, global trade flows have changed, and Platts AGS is right at the heart of that.
The preponderance of movement now and into the future will be into Asia. The Asia refiners are particularly metal sensitive. There was a time, but for which there is still a somewhat lingering bad taste, when you had other grades of WTI, which were later redefined as DSW, as being inconsistent in terms of their specifications. So establishing parameters that define those limits, which can allow for either resolution by differential, in terms of quality differential, or giving assurance to that Asian refiner.
You think back on the shale revolution, it's been based on innovation, ambition, and grit. And the ambition cycle of raw growth and excess capex is gone. You're still going to have innovation, you're still going to have grit and resilience, but you've got to deliver free cash, and we're competing on a global market. It's all about margin and keeping producing the low cost barrel and the low emission barrel.
We're already seeing producers finding efficiencies to make their businesses work in this new price environment. So some of those are operational, and we're hearing a lot of things from different producers on what they're doing with drilling techniques, with longer laterals, the way they're going about producing oil to be more competitive.
It's an exciting and unique journey. A new benchmark is coming into the crude oil market, and on the back of the shale revolution, we are now seeing a pricing evolution in the US market coming through.
Price reporters at Platts, our job is to produce price assessments that reflect market reality, to produce meaningful, relevant price assessments. And a lot of the time, from one day to the next, that in itself is a really interesting job. But what we're actually doing doesn't change, if you like. But then along comes a moment of immense change, provoked in part by the profound shock of negative pricing, and then being asked to come up with a much more creative solution, getting feedback from the market, really thinking beyond the norms, really, coming up with an imaginative new methodology, and then seeing it through to fruition, to publication in record time. It was a lot of fun.